Hi and welcome to another Salesforce and Trailhead tutorial with myself, Jonathan Fox. And today we're going to be going the next step on the 3 to 4 part episode where I'm looking at an integration using Batchable Apex and then having a nice little skin on it using Lightning Web Components to put a nice UI together. So today we are going to move on from our HTTP callout that we made to our external REST endpoint. Now we're going to look at how I called it, also how I handle the response, and because I'm going to be using Batchable Apex, I want to show you how I manage that as well. Okay, so now we're in VS Code. Quick reminder of our HTTP request. We have our custom metadata storing the API key, URL, and method. We SOQL queried the metadata, and then we make the call out. In our Batchable class now, so here we have our Batchable class. We're implementing database.batchable, and we are going to be using this iterator of our Mockaroo wrapper class. And we need a wrapper class to take the information from our response, our JSON string, and convert it into, we've got our Apex class here, and then our Apex object, and we're going to then convert that into a contact. Because we're making a call out within the Batchable Apex, we need to allow callouts. Here I am setting my amount that is going to be passed in at a later date from the Lightning Web component. However, if we called this from the developer console, it would also get set here, passed in as a parameter. The Batchable Apex is split down into 3 methods: the start, the execute, and the finish. The start is used for gathering your data, whether that's by query or in this case we're using the HTTP request. The execute is doing something to it, and also in this case is inserting them. It could be updating them. And then the finish is post-processing operations, as you can see here in the example, like sending an email. So we send the request, we get the response. We store that response here. What we then want to do is we want to deserialize that response. So we are creating a list of our Apex object called parse response. We're casting it into that list here from the JSON string that we've got the response body. We're deserializing it into a list of that Apex object using .class. And then we are returning it because we return what we want to pass into the execute method. Here we have a list of object because we've specified it here. However, we need to just have it as a general object for passing into our execute method. And from here, I'm going to create a list of contacts that I want to insert into our Salesforce org. I'm going to iterate over each object within our that we got from our response. So effectively, this is going to be eventually each contact. And I'm going to add it to our list, but what I'm adding to the list is a converted version using this method here. And as you can see, this method here is from our Mockaroo class, wrapper class. We have an object here which utilizes our fields that are set in our external database, so what we would see the field headers as in our JSON response. And we are initiating that object and calling it contact. So the response, the body, the deserialized response comes into this method here, passed in, and what we do is we're creating a new contact, and we are saying that where the object, the Mockaroo object's first name, this would be a contact first name, last name, contact last name, and so on and so forth. We can see that the external ID is our Salesforce contact external ID, and this is our contact, which is up here, our Mockaroo contact external ID. So here, this is from our external database. This is the external ID, the field from our external database. Likewise, mobile number, likewise, gender. We are saying that this contact, our Mockaroo contact, external ID or external contact gender is the same as our Salesforce custom field, gender, or email or last name. So this is your Salesforce side. This is my Mockaroo object side of things here. This is what we have deserialized from our JSON response into my Apex object. So where we are now mapping the deserialized JSON from this Apex object into what we would expect a standard Salesforce object or custom Salesforce object to look like. We have done that. We've added them to a list of contacts. What we want to do now is actually insert them into the database, and we use the database class. I've got my success, and I've also got anything that may happen as an error. And then finally, this is where we could do anything afterwards. I hope that was useful and it helped you understand how I'm using my Batchable Apex, as well as how I'm actually handling a response from an endpoint and converting that into a Salesforce object, especially when there are things such as custom fields involved. The next step that we're going to go on to in the next video, we'll be looking at developing our Lightning Web component to have a nice UI to be able to do this, so that the end user doesn't have to use the developer console to do it. And then our fourth and final video, we are probably going to do an iteration of the Lightning Web component and try and make it look as fancy as possible. So until next time, thank you very much. If you could like, share, subscribe, comment, that is fantastic. However, please do give me some feedback. It's always appreciated. Until next time, thank you.